It was the morning of May 1968, and a Green Beret master sergeant in a base camp in South Vietnam was about to volunteer for an extraction mission that had already killed half the men sent on it. He would jump out of a helicopter into a firefight with nothing but a medical bag and a knife. He would take 37 separate wounds in 6 hours. He would be declared dead on an airstrip, and he would refuse to stop fighting until 8 other men were on planes home. Stay with this one, because the man who walked out of that battlefield walked back into a Pentagon ceremony 13 years later for a medal his own government had not believed he deserved. His name was Roy Benavidez. He was born in El Campo, Texas, in 1935, the son of a Mexican-American sharecropper. His father died of tuberculosis when he was 2 years old. His mother died of the same disease when he was 7. Roy and his brother went to live with their uncle in a house with 8 other children. They picked cotton in the fields outside El Campo. He left school in the 7th grade to work full-time. By the time he was 19, he had enlisted in the Army. He spent the early part of his career as a paratrooper. He volunteered for the Special Forces in 1965. By the spring of 1968, he was a master sergeant in the 5th Special Forces Group at a base camp called Loc Ninh, near the Cambodian border in South Vietnam. He was 32 years old. On the morning of 2nd May 1968, a 12-man Special Forces reconnaissance team operating along the Cambodian border was hit by a North Vietnamese battalion. About 1,000 enemy soldiers against 12 men. The reconnaissance team was pinned down in a clearing in heavy jungle. Their position was being hammered by mortar and small arms fire. 3 rescue helicopters had already tried to extract them and been shot up so badly they could not land. The crews had come back to Loc Ninh with bullet holes in their fuselages and dead men in the cargo bays. Roy Benavidez was at the base camp listening to the radio traffic. He was not assigned to the mission. He could hear the reconnaissance team calling for help. He could hear the helicopter crews trying again. He could hear the firing in the background. He went to the operations center. He volunteered to go in on the next helicopter. He took a medical bag. He took his Bowie knife. He boarded a helicopter that lifted off from Loc Ninh and flew west toward the firefight. The helicopter could not land in the clearing where the team was pinned down. The pilot hovered 10 feet above the ground in the center of the firefight. Benavidez jumped. He was hit before he reached the men. A bullet caught him in the right leg as his feet touched the dirt. Another caught him in the face. A piece of shrapnel went into his head. He ran the 75 yards across the clearing under fire, with blood already running into his eye, and reached what was left of the recon team. 4 men were dead. 8 were wounded. The team leader was dead. The radio was dead. Benavidez took over. For the next 6 hours on a clearing in the jungle of South Vietnam, Master Sergeant Roy Benavidez did the work of a unit. He dragged the wounded into a position behind a fallen tree. He gave them morphine. He sealed sucking chest wounds with the materials in his bag. He retrieved classified documents from the body of the dead team leader and stuffed them under his shirt. He directed the surviving Montagnard scouts. He called in airstrikes by signaling the Air Force overhead with smoke grenades. When a second helicopter came in for extraction, the pilot was shot dead in the cockpit and the helicopter crashed. Benavidez ran to the wreck. He pulled survivors out. He carried them back to the wounded he had already gathered. He was shot a second time in the thigh. He was shot a third time in the back. He kept moving. When a third helicopter came in, he carried the wounded one at a time across the open field and lifted them into the cargo bay. While he was doing this, an enemy soldier ran up behind him and struck him in the back of the head with a rifle butt. Benavidez fell. The North Vietnamese soldier raised his rifle to finish him. Benavidez killed him with his knife. He kept moving. By the time the last extraction helicopter cleared the trees and rose out of the clearing, every wounded American who could still be saved was on board. Benavidez had been the last man off the ground. He had taken 37 separate wounds during the 6 hours on the clearing. 7 major gunshot wounds, 28 pieces of shrapnel embedded in his body, a bayonet stab to the arm, concussions from rifle butts and explosions. His intestines were exposed through his abdominal wall. He held them in with his hand. The helicopter set down at Loc Ninh that afternoon. Medical officers ran out to meet it. They went through the bodies on the cargo deck. They confirmed each casualty. When they reached Benavidez, he was unresponsive. His pulse was not detectable. The doctor in charge said the words a doctor at a Vietnam-era field clearing station said too often. He pronounced Benavidez dead. A team carried his body to the row of casualty bags being prepared on the tarmac. A doctor leaned over to begin closing the bag. Benavidez, with the last energy in his body, blew a small amount of blood into the doctor's face. The doctor froze. He checked the pulse again. He found it. He shouted for a stretcher. Roy Benavidez was lifted off the tarmac, taken to surgery, and kept alive through 5 separate operations over the following months. He recovered. Slowly. He spent over a year in hospitals. He had bullets removed from his lung, his liver, and his back. He had pieces of metal pulled out of his skull. He learned to walk again. His superior officers nominated him for the Medal of Honor immediately after the action. The problem was paperwork. The only Americans alive who had seen what Benavidez had done were either dead, wounded, or unable to write a coherent eyewitness statement. The recommendation was downgraded to a Distinguished Service Cross. For 13 years, the United States military did not formally believe what Benavidez had done at Loc Ninh. In 1980, a man named Brian O'Connor, one of the Special Forces soldiers Benavidez had pulled to safety, read a newspaper story that mentioned Benavidez was still alive. O'Connor had been listed as dead. He had not been able to write a statement at the time of the action because nobody knew where he was. He came forward. He wrote a 10-page eyewitness account of what Roy Benavidez had done on the clearing. The case for the Medal of Honor was reopened. On 24 February 1981, President Ronald Reagan finally awarded Roy Benavidez the Medal of Honor at the Pentagon. Standing at attention with shrapnel still inside his body, Benavidez received the recognition he had waited 13 years for. He spent the rest of his life inspiring others, sharing his story with students and reminding people about courage and sacrifice. He died on 29th November 1998 at age 63 and was buried at Fort Sam Houston, Texas. Some of the metal from that battlefield never left him. His story remains a reminder of extraordinary bravery. If Roy Benavidez's story moved you, subscribe to the Collapse Files for more forgotten acts of heroism.